Hi and welcome to another Watch Geek video. Today we'll be taking a look at a very special edition of a Spinnaker Spence that was released just a couple of days ago. One that is done in collaboration with the British charity Help for Heroes that helps physically and psychologically injured servicemen and women of the United Kingdom Army, Navy, and Air Force. Thus the tricolor theme on the watch, which is also the logo of the charity. I usually don't include the packaging in my videos, but this one is worth including, as it rounds up the story of the watch quite well, with the same color scheme used throughout. The package includes some basic info about the charity, as well as the amount of sales that will be donated by Spinnaker. So with this watch, that will be priced at £225, which is just over $300, and limited to 300 pieces, you're helping fund an organization that helps injured veterans and their families both financially and by offering education and motivation to help them adapt and continue their lives as normally as possible. Now with that out of the way, let's take a look at it as a regular watch. This is the third Spinnaker Spence I feature on my channel, and to me, the best so far. What's funny about that is the fact this is based on the first generation of the Spence that was discontinued before I had a chance to handle one. I always thought that version was the best, as it had these original hands that Spinnaker started introducing on many models, creating their own DNA, but sadly soon dropped them and switched to generic hands, like the ones used on the second generation Spence, and even worse, to the Rolex Submariner hands used on the third generation. I actually expressed my dislike about that decision in my black and gold Spence review, and you can check that video out by clicking on the link in the corner of the screen. So seeing this model going back to its roots makes me happy and gives me a false feeling I somehow influenced that, which I'm sure I didn't. Other than the hands and dial configuration, this is pretty much identical to every Spence I reviewed. So a very well sized case at 41.5mm in diameter and just under 47mm lug to lug, making it sit and look good on even a small wrist like mine. In fact, the only dimension that is a bit over the top is the thickness at 14.5, but it can be forgiven when you notice the feeling of depth on the dial. It is one of the deepest looking dials on any Spinnaker so far, and I love it. The depth look is a result of an almost vertical chapter ring, similar to the ones found on Seiko's, with the difference being that this one is aligned correctly. Another thing that is perfectly aligned is the 120 click bezel, that although easy to operate, does require you to grab it on the sides rather than the top edge, as the teeth are too small and slip in your hands, but the sides of the bezel are so large that you have no problem turning it when you grab it like that. Sadly, the insert is aluminium, but with a very cool looking bezel pip. The crystal is another letdown, as it is mineral, something you don't expect at this price point, but I guess it just shows that we're dealing with a watch based on an old model, when Sapphire was found on more expensive watches. The watch is powered by the Seiko NH35 movement that is automatic, comes with both hacking and hand winding, and beats away at 21,600 bph. So like I said, objectively, it's pretty much the same as every other Spence before it. But subjectively, the little colored details like the stitching on the dark blue leather strap, the colored keepers, and my favorite, the counterweight of the seconds hand, make for such an impact and such a difference in the overall look of the watch that I wouldn't even place it in the same category as other Spence models, no matter how illogical that sounds. Maybe it's also down to the massive applied markers and a more refined matte blue dial rather than the usual textured dials Spinnaker often uses. But this watch somehow looks a lot more expensive and a lot more special than its brethren, and I honestly like it a lot more than the other Spence models I reviewed. Now don't get me wrong, the watch is far from perfect, and here I'm not just talking about the specs you get for your money, which clearly shows this thing is obsolete when compared to other micro brands in that price point, but also the finishing on the hands. The brushed finish does catch the light well, making them easily visible, but the finishing is a bit rough, especially on the second sand. But even with all the drawbacks, it does have its charm, especially given the colors used and the originality of the markers and hands. So if you like it, I don't see why not to get one, especially when you know some of that money you give will go to a good cause. Well, that completes this week's review, so thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed and found it useful. If you did, please like and subscribe, and until the next video, bye.